Do you want mine?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How are you? Excellent. I'd like to call to order the driver training, a traffic safety advisory committee meeting is now in order. It is 10:03. I'm Ricardo Benavides, the chairman, and let me call roll call here. Wait, you guys. Good morning, committee members. David Bruce.
Present.
Thank you. Blake.
Present.
Thank you. Victoria is absent. Okay. Kevin Knapp.
Here, sir.
Thank you. Sam Webb. Carlos Reina.
Present.
Nina Josain.
Present.
Glenn.
Here.
Thanks, Glenn. And excellent. We do have a quorum present. I'd move to
Hold on, you
excuse.
didn't call me. Sorry,
I'm sorry?
you didn't call me.
I didn't? I'm sorry, Francis, you're right. My apologies, Francis Gomez.
Here, present.
I'm so sorry about that, Francis. Thank you so much. The coffee hasn't kicked in just yet. We do have a quorum present. I wanted to move to excuse the absence of Sam Webb and Victoria Barroso, just in case they don't show up. Anybody second?
Second motion.
Carlos, thank you so much for seconding that. I appreciate that. Quick little vote. All those in favor, by the way, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're the 29th? Thank you, guys. Excellent, excellent. Thank you for your patience, everyone. The next item, C, is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting, committee members, from May the 9th of this year. I'm hoping that we had an opportunity to look at those minutes. Any edits, any questions before I consider a motion to approve those minutes? Members?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Kevin. We have a motion on the floor. Anyone second that?
I'll second it.
David, thank you so much. Seconds it. Motion is on the floor to approve the minutes as they are from our last meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Excellent. Okay. Our next agenda item is the public comment. And I want to just quickly, just let everybody know, thank you so much, those of you that are here. I already have 4 public comment forms. Those of you that wish to speak to the committee members, you have an opportunity to come up here for about 3 minutes, exactly 3 minutes or less, and you get to address, like I said, the committee members. You just need to fill out one of these forms. They're actually on the front You just register, you fill out these forms, and just give them to myself, or Delia here can obviously take those too, and he allows you an opportunity to come up here. I'm going to actually call you in the order that they were received. There's really no particular order here. The first person I have is Bill Blasingame. Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Oh, just fine, Rick. Thank you for inviting me up here.
Thank you for making the trip.
Sure, not a problem. Well, I'm Bill Blasingame, and I represent Fast, Easy Defensive Driving. We're a course provider. We offer the traditional and the online classes. And as a traditional provider, I feel like I'm the last man standing out there. You know what I mean? But anyway, I have an issue here with some proposed amendments. And I made it very, very clear. I've contacted my representatives, and I've sent letters in through the public comment section. And basically, I'd just like to just kind of restate some of the items that I'd already publicly made. And that was basically that the driving safety fees, that's what I'm primarily opposed of, was established in 1995 during the 74th legislative session. Senate Bill 964 established a lot of the rules that we follow today, the $9,000 course approval fee, the $25 price floor that we have in our industry, the bond amounts, along with various other items. Well, through the years, we've changed that through legislation, and we added things, we changed, and most recently in the 85th, the bond price went down. And so we've been able to handle our business a lot through the legislative process. Well, in the 85th last year session, I see where the House Bill 912 and Senate Bill 848 did make some mandates about electronic certification, which I've taken from the agenda that's moving along. I think all of us would like to have seen that maybe a little quicker, but I don't know all the moving parts to this, okay? Y'all more behind the scenes than I am, so I'm just trusting that, hey, it went as fast as it could go. However, those particular House bills and Senate bills, I didn't see where they authorized a lowering of our fees for driving safety course approvals. And I really feel like, love our regulatory authority over here. They're great people. Staff is outstanding. But I feel like they're overstepping their authority on this. And maybe not intentionally, but I feel like that this is outside of their authority to actually lower our fees. And I'm hoping you'll agree with me on this, and if there is a chance for this committee to show opposition to this, I hope you will show opposition to lowering the driving safety fees and allowing our industry to do like we have in the past, go to the legislation and get things changed if we want to. And if we decide that we would, as a group, would like to lower our driving safety course approval fees or course provider fees, that we'll do that during the legislative process and not through the rule. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Thanks,
Okay.
Bill.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Our next public comment is from Patrick Barrett. Mr. Barrett.
Thank you.
Thank you. Of course.
All right, that's working.
Good morning, Patrick. How are you?
Good morning. Just wonderful. Good to see you all here. I know you missed me. Okay. First of all, thank you again for your service to the industry, to the agency, and the public we serve. I'm glad to see that the agency is reducing some of its fees. I think it hasn't gone far enough. I don't think Bill and I are going to agree here. But I suspect that is more a function of the ridiculously detailed POI that is required instead of recommended. I believe if you simply change the POI to a recommended standard, not an absolute standard, you could achieve more reasonable fees. After reviewing the sanction matrix, I was puzzled and confused by some of the choices, but I suppose that time will tell how well this works. I am grateful to notice that none of the matrix sanctions apply to the parent-taught program. We are already overregulated in that area and need no additional regulations. Unfortunately, the TDLR had to issue a cease and desist order for Keys Driving School of Little Elm, Texas, because they were doing business without a state-required license. In general, I'm opposed to adding unnecessary regulatory involvement and forms. However, this path might be necessary to address the issue of unlicensed driving schools in Texas. I suggest that the TDLR require all minor students to register with them before starting a driver education course. That is the same requirement that currently exists for families who choose the parent-taught option would now apply to all students, whether they enroll in a public school or a driving school program. A registration certificate or form would be issued to the applicants, and the applicants would be able to verify that their school selection is legitimate. This would simplify and standardize the administration process at the DPS driver license office by requiring every minor applicant, not just the parent-taught ones, to provide the registration form when applying for their learner license. Also, this would begin to end the discrimination that parent-taught families have faced for the past 20 years from the regulatory agencies, the DPS, the TEA, and the TDLR. The additional volume of registration revenue might enable the TDLR to lower the fee as a consequence of the economy of scale. Let's level the playing field, be fair to all applicants, and simplify the processes. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Excellent. Moving right along, Mr. Gary Hensley. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning. I'm not used to sitting down talking to people. Most of the time I'm about a crowd like this, talking to my class. Anyway, thanks for this opportunity to address the board. I appreciate y'all's service up here, and I know that you guys will make the right decision, whatever that is. I kind of want to say an old Texas saying, you've heard that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think that's what we need to do on this proposed deal for lowering the prices out there. I'd like to ask you folks, some of you folks up there, how many of y'all have conceived, started, and had a successful business? Can I see a show of hands, please?
It has to be a rhetorical question,
okay.
sir. My apologies.
Okay, well,
I can't respond.
like I say, how many of you folks want to have more competition in your businesses? You don't want that. And if you lower that price down to from $9,000 to $1,200, every fly-by-night people in the world is going to come in. I can put $1,200 on my credit card to get that done, but I really believe that we will lower the standards of the industry, and we don't want that. What is the bottom line of this business anyway? The bottom line is, for good driver safety for the citizens of the state of Texas, and that is the bottom line. And I think that if you do, like I say, none of y'all want more competition in your business. I can look at everybody's eyes, and I know that. I've run a business for the last 25 years. I've run a business, and our business has been in business for 32 years. And like I say, anybody wanting more competition in their business, like I say, know that the success of your business eventually, like I say, how you deal with your competition. Like I say, competition is an American way. That is that is the American way. But if these folks are just up front, just the fee is lower than what we paid, then that inherently unlevels the playing field for folks that have, paid that higher fees. So I'm sure you guys will, like I say, take all this consideration. I'm sure you'll look at all that. But just look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, do I want more competition in my business? And I bet 100% of y'all would say no. So anyway, appreciate your time and consideration. and I'm hopeful that y'all make the right decision up there.
Thank you, Gary, so much. Good to see you. Sir. Thank you, and we have one more, Ms. Eva Morales. Good morning.
Good
Ma. How are you?
morning. Good morning, members of the committee, Mr. Benavides, TDLR reps. My name is Eva Morales, and I'm the owner of a driving school and online course provider in McAllen, Texas. I come before you this morning to discuss the negative effects of TDLR's proposed amendments to 84.300 and 84.301, the negative effects it will have in my business. As you know, TDLR has proposed a reduction in fees for several of its programs, including fees to start a new driving school and to be an online provider. Contrary to TDLR's director's conclusion stating that the new rules will not have an adverse effect on small businesses, I can assure you that they will have a negative and long-lasting effect on our business. If implemented, as I'm sure others will be directly affected economically through the loss of revenue, affecting our ability to maintain the services that we currently maintain. I have invested a great deal of time, energy, capital to my driving school, and we're trying to abide with all the TDLR, to be on course with TDLR. And having this, it will definitely have a potential loss in revenue, and that is of great concern to me. I worry that the proposed reduction of the initiation fees, application fees, will invite and attract individuals whose primary motivation will be to seize an economic opportunity rather than the safety of the student and the driver, especially the teen driver. There is no doubt that by increasing the number of driving schools and online providers, the overall quality of instruction will suffer. As it is right now, there are 14 driving schools in my immediate vicinity. And overall, in the Rio Grande Valley, there are 20 driving schools. My driving school takes great pride on adhering to TDLR curriculum and to teaching good driving skills to all of our students, with the ultimate goal being the protection and the preserving lives on the road for our community. I'm not convinced that these individuals who take advantage of the new lowering fees will have the passion and the best interest of the general public in mind. Therefore, committee, I respectfully request the advisory committee, to reconsider its recommendation on reducing the fees and declines to implement the proposed rules at this time. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Irma, so much. Okay, I have no more public comments unless someone would like to speak. No more forms? Excellent. Thank you so much for those that did come up. Our next item on the agenda is staff reports, briefing from the staff, and of course discussion. The first one is licensing division by Ms. Chloe. Good morning, Chloe.
Good morning, Chairman Benavides and board members. I have a little house cleaning or spring cleaning to do with you guys this morning. On forms, applications, I need you to go and express to everyone that you know, your associates, to take all the old forms out and start using the new ones that are on the website. We've also been getting a lot of upgrade forms for renewals. Renewals go out 65 days prior to the license expiring, so if you haven't received a renewal, please send us an email, give us a call, say I hadn't got my renewal. We'll check to make sure that it's been printed and sent out. If it hasn't, then we can request one and also get it to you. We can even email it to you. We would just want to make sure that you're using the current forms and that you're in compliance with using those new forms. If you have any questions about your statistics reports, then I'll be glad to answer them.
I was gonna mention in regards to, you were looking at me, Chloe, when you were talking about the renewal, the old
Not
renewal
you.
forms. 'Cause I know that I've called before on that one. You got some great stuff, the forms on the website, and I appreciate that. What I haven't seen is the renewal application for a driving safety instructor. Is it because you only want to use the one that's being sent by TDLR?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay.
we automatically send those out.
Perfect. So you either get it directly from you, or that's it, it doesn't exist. Okay,
Yes, sir.
perfect. I just wanted to be sure on that. Thank you so much.
All right.
Committee members, anybody else have any questions pertaining to the stats? All right. Thank you. Anything
welcome.
else? Thank you, Chloe, so much.
You're welcome.
It's great seeing you as always. Our next item is from the Customer Service Division. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, board members.
Morning.
My name is Misty Maldonado de Leon. I am the manager in customer service for the DES program. I've brought with me today Jacqueline Rush. She is our e-communications team lead and has been working on a project she wants to give an update on. My portion first will be the statistics, and if you will see in front of you, we do have quite a few emails coming through, which we would like to advocate for. More customers coming through on emails is the fastest way. Hold times on calls have been a little higher due to traffic. So we welcome the emails. We do have a designated email address for the driver safety program, the cs.driver.education@tdlr.texas.gov. And then we've also added a help@tdlr.texas.gov email on the IVR when they're listening if they don't want to hold longer. So we welcome those through there as well. And then if you don't have any questions on stats, I'll hand it over to Jacqueline so she can give her update.
Ma'am, Glenn Winningham, I have a question real quick.
Sure.
What is the average, if you guys know, what's the average response time on one of those emails sent in?
Emails we like to get to within 24 to 48 hours. However, usually they're done within the same day, usually within a few hours. We do have subject matter experts that actually handle those. So as soon as they can get the research done and answer the customer, we get them done quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin Knapp, I've got a quick question. What seems to be the highest volume subject matter when we're getting the calls? Is there any one thing that you can see that is like the highest volume?
Some of it is maneuvering through the website. Some of it is, a lot of it is parent taught, depending on the season. Right now, we're just ending the summer season, which was a lot of parent taught questions, students, parents asking about the whole process.
Okay.
So it just kind of depends. Courses.
Nothing that could be automated, any
We're
better
working
than-
on that. We continue to be innovative and see what the customers are asking. We analyze our data and make improvements as needed. And that's what Jacqueline's going to actually update you on
Okay.
as well.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I'm here to speak with you today about a project that we're working on to help clarify the process, the parent-taught driver education process for customers. The steps that we've taken so far are we've created a new landing page on our website for the parent-taught program that explains the roles and responsibilities of TDLR, the TDLR-approved course providers, and DPS, as well as the parents. The reason that we're doing this is every day we receive calls and emails from customers that really don't know that they're dealing with 3 different entities and that they're going to be required to reach out to each of those entities to complete the program. There's a lot of confusion. So we're confident that with this new language, it'll assist customers in understanding the process a little better. We've also created an infographic, steps for parents at a glance, so that literally in a few seconds, there's an overview where parents and students can understand the entire process before they start their research and sign on. And so we're excited. The next step in the process is we're going to be asking for course providers' help. We'll be sending an email from our education department, And you can expect it to come from Marco Rodriguez, our education assessment specialist and auditor, and he will be offering assistance and letting course providers know about changes that have been made to forms, providing the new website link for the landing page, and old guides from DPS and TEA that need to be replaced. It'll basically be an email designed to provide resources and tools to course providers so that we're all on the same page. And I'm excited about it. That email should be going out in the next few days, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Members? Wonderful.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
Thank you.
Nick Fuenis at TDLR. I wanted to be on the record and thank Jacqueline for all of her help here in trying to eliminate customer confusion and providing our customers with the most current and updated information. So thank you to her and the staff in customer service and E&E as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick. Jacqueline, thank you. Thank you so much. Great presentation.
Very, very
Mr.
quickly,
Chairman,
I'm
Brian
sorry.
Francis, as she's leaving, I definitely want to echo that as well. When the programs first came over to us, we had a lot of focus and emphasis on driver education and driver safety, and parent taught was our unknown. There was a lot that we didn't know about what was going on with that. The program in terms of the phone calls that were coming in, we were swamped that first year. I mean, it really turned our phones upside down, and we had a difficult time responding, wading through it. I think we went through at least 4 iterations of the parent taught guide in the first 9 months to try to tweak it and make it read a little bit better. But the steps that Jacqueline's taken in the last couple of months, I think it's selfish on your part, Jacqueline, trying to make it easier for people and have less calls. I get that, but it's a beautiful selfishness. That's an innovative selfishness, and I joke with her on that. You've done a great job, and it's going to serve Texans better as they move forward with this. So thank you so much for what you've done.
Chairman Kevin Amp. I love and I haven't seen it yet, but the infographics, those are really becoming very popular, how people are looking at it. Even still videos, small little quick videos might be of help too. I'm sure you've thought about
Yeah,
it.
Absolutely, and we agree. I think this is one large step forward. There
is.
have been
It's
many steps
huge.
before,
Yeah.
and this is another
Yeah.
step. And I think it can just keep going as we get feedback from customers,
Good.
from our advisory board. So I'm excited.
But definitely the infographics,
videos are
I
great.
mean, I'm seeing a lot of people use them, and they're very effective, so good job.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any comments? Thank you, ladies, so much.
Have a great day.
Our next item on the agenda is E3 Enforcement Division.
Good morning, Chairman Benavides.
Good morning.
And committee members. My name is Kimberly Davenport, and I'm a prosecutor with the Enforcement Division here at TDLR, and I'm here to bring you the staff report. And today I'm presenting this report on behalf of the new attorney who's going to be handling this program, but he was unavailable today, so I stepped in. Regarding projects, I'm happy to inform you that the penalty matrix that was agreed upon by the committee has now been approved by the commission and has been published on our website. So that's good news for you here today. Going on to case highlights, as you can see, there was one order that has been entered since the last time that the committee has met. To clarify, this one order actually represents 12 different cases. And this was a default order against a corporation that operated 2 driver's education schools. The violations that were cited in this order were for failure to make a refund of program costs after the school closed to the students. The penalty was $39,000, $39,400, and what that penalty represents was 384 students that were not refunded the money. So there was a $100 penalty for each of those students, as well as failing to notify the department of the school's closure in a timely manner. There was a $500 penalty for each school that totals the $39,400. This was a default order, as I have said, which also leads me to tell you that it has not been paid at this point, and often that is the case with default orders. Did anyone have any questions about that particularly?
Excuse me, David Bruce. I do have a question. With the lowering of the bond, what are the next steps to try to collect the outstanding penalty fee?
I will say that I checked this morning to see if there were any refunds given, and they came out of the bond that the school had paid. So it wasn't made voluntarily by the school, but the refunds, I believe, had been made through that bond. The next step is, I think currently our general counsel office is trying to collect this default penalty. I believe there's still a little more time for them to continue to collect it, and then they can possibly send it to the Attorney General's office to attempt to collect that penalty.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So clarification, Kevin Knapp. So the students have been taken care of?
That is my understanding. I clarified that this morning. I assume the bond covered all of it, but I'm not exactly sure, since this is a new program for me, the costs that were owed to each student.
Okay.
Brian Francis, Mr. Chairman, we'll find out and we'll give an update, and we'll make sure that information gets to the board members.
Just curious.
Redelia. An FYI. And I'll also offer that the agency has a contract with a third-party collection company as well, and we'll be able to utilize that, particularly with this dollar amount being so high. We'll be able to use that as well.
Now, regarding the statistics, as you can see, this program is one of our smaller programs, although just as significant as any other program. And also a new attorney, like I said before, his name is Aaron Heath, has been hired and is now taking over this program to handle all these cases, so we're happy to have him on board. Do you have any other questions regarding my report?
Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Excellent. Our next item on the agenda is E4, and this is the Education and Examination Division.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board.
Morning.
Morning.
Angie Schmidt, Team Lead for Education and Examination Division. I'm going to provide you some updates this morning on the Community Safety Education Act, SB 30. The video has been completed.
Right.
We also have a PowerPoint to go along in conjunction with the video, which thank you, Nina, for creation of the PowerPoint, which has also been vetted and approved by the committee for SB 30. We plan to have the video on our website for download by September 1st for all our schools and course providers, and we will also have it on our YouTube page. Is there any other questions about the Community Safety Education Act?
Officially, how long is it now?
The video is 16 minutes and 9 seconds.
Is it broken up into two sections, or does it have to be presented all? Excuse me, this is Carlos Reina. It has to be presented all in one showing.
It's all in one, but there are points that you can pause the video.
Kevin Knapp,
Yes, sir.
is this something that is going to be mandated to put into all parent-taught and all programs? And
Yes.
when is the proposed date for that? Do we have any idea?
I don't think we have a proposed date for when it has to be. It will be made available by us by September 1st on our website.
Okay.
And I think our next meeting is probably going to be around November 7th. So we're definitely going to have a strong expectation that schools are incorporating that
Sure.
into their programs. We're going to do a viewing of the video after the meeting. So if there are individuals who want to stay here, and we have no popcorn, so just know that. But if you want to stay here and see the video, you'll be able to look at that. And we're also going to provide you guys copies of the PowerPoint, so you can have a look at that as well.
And we hope to probably send that out in a listserv email to all our schools and course providers. Moving on to Senate Bill 1051, TDLR was tasked with the creation of a driver education course in ASL for deaf or hard of hearing students. The contract has been awarded and signed by Focus Education out of Massachusetts. They hope to have modules 1 and 2 by the end of September and completion of all 12 modules by the end of March. They have agreed at no extra charge to host this on their website for up to a year. We are very excited about this. We've seen a 7-minute clip of what they can do. We had a meeting with them. I have to admit my anxiety was high going into the meeting because I want this to be a really great product. 10 minutes after speaking to them, I no longer had that anxiety. They know what they're doing, they know about ASL, and they know how to create a good product.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis. Angie, can you talk a little bit about the partnership and collaboration we've had with the hard of hearing and deaf community here in the Austin area?
Yes, we are working with Texas School of the Deaf. We received a chronological, some of, information about what services they can provide. We did pass that through Texas School of the Deaf. We will also be, when we receive each module for approval by TDLR, we will be going over the modules with Texas School of the Deaf as well to make sure that we have signing correct. They've even talked about possibly having a focus group of teens from their school to view each module as well to make sure it captures their attention and we're not missing anything in giving out the information.
Mr. Chairman, we have a lot of experience in dealing with the disability community with our Architectural Barriers program. And one of the things I've read recently is that the disability community says, if it's about us, then include us. And we want to make sure that as we move forward with this particular video and developing it, that we are including the disability community. We are not assuming what it should look like, how it should feel, and what it should be. So I'm excited, and I'm really proud of the staff for really rolling that in.
Kevin Knapp. And this was budgeted through TDLR, correct? What'd we spend on that? Or what are we spending?
$77,000 and some change.
Very good. Yeah. Don't see how they did it, but very good.
Yeah, 77,730.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is. I love it. Specificity
This
good.
is Carlos Reina. I know we had numerous questions with regard to certification of the students that complete the course. And I believe a few of us felt that it wasn't really well thought out or planned because there's a lot of issues, I think, that are going to come up for schools, students alike, and so forth. And so are we going to have the opportunity either in a work group or the advisory committee to discuss some of the problems that we see that are coming with this course?
Yes. And like I said, we will just host it. We can't provide a certificate. We can't provide a DE 964. It will be up to the schools to go in and get the course to provide to their students. So even if someone watches it on where we have it hosted, they can't get a certificate from us unless they go through a school or course provider.
Kevin Knapp, and is it limited to ASL students? That's the key.
There's nothing in the statute that limits it. Keep in mind that as the schedule is proposed in the contract we have, the final module is going to be ready in March, and that's when the program's going to launch. So we have between now and March to work through some of these the logistics on how it's going to be distributed. But there's nothing in statute that limits the participation of it.
Which now allows anybody and everybody to have a really nice online course for free.
Possibly. Yeah. But also remember that there's this thing called a legislative session that will be taking place in March. And there's always opportunities to tweak if that's necessary.
Blake Garrett, is it a 32-hour video they're
Yes.
creating?
Mm-hmm. It's a 32-hour course.
Video?
Carla James, TDLR, there's 16 components at 2 hours apiece.
Okay.
Right. We went ahead and had them break it up into 2 hours because you can't take more than 2 a day in most courses. So.
Question, Nina Saint, will it have to meet all the other requirements of a video course that are currently existing in rules, such as validation?
Yes, it will have all that in there as well.
Student participation?
Yes, ma'am.
Worksheets, everything else listed?
They will have validation content questions. They will have all that. They have all the rule. They have the POI, and they have to go about it just like everyone else did to create their course.
Thank you.
Excuse me, David Bruce. So just to clarify, that was not what I was expecting. So this video for the 77,000 is 32 hours broken up into 2-hour segments.
Yes, sir.
And it includes login capability, validation capability, participation capability. It's the entire course other than the ability to issue a certificate.
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
Kevin Knapp, and then after the year of the free hosting, what happens?
We'll work that out when that time comes. Any other questions?
Blake, is there anything that prevents this vendor from becoming a school?
Blake, I'm not
Contractually.
sure, but we'll take a look at the contract.
Thank you.
We've had other vendor relationships, and we've not seen them say, oh, I'm going to go jump into the business of doing the thing that I just created, so we'll take a look.
Appreciate it.
Question,
As well, bring them on.
This is Mark Lively, General Counsel, and we also haven't had any word from them that that would be their intention as well.
question, statute does mention about a fee for the course. This is not a saint again. Will there be a fee?
Brian Francis, and I think you're aware that the statute does provide that we can charge a fee to recoup the cost. I will tell you that our focus from today until March is getting a good product, and the logistics and those details that we're talking about, we'll fine tune those as we go forward. I do not want to misspeak today and then have somebody beat me over the head with a knotted stick, in December saying, well, in August you said, because I know me, I will misspeak. So,
And you know me, I'll call you on.
You'll not. You'll be able to deal with the knotted stick. I know.
Blake, Garrett, can we, as an advisory board, and obviously the public too, if they want, receive a copy of that contract
Sure. And it's full.
and the scope of work?
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at my GC.
Yeah.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Can you all provide it,
email
or?
it. Mhm.
Okay, great.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Angie, great job. Appreciate what you said.
Good morning, Chairman, members. Michael Strawn, Education and Examination. Really, before I begin, I just want to thank Angie. She's put in a lot of hard work on these bills. And it's led to a lot of work for me on my side as she drives these contracts forward. So just to give you a couple updates, you should have been handed a program of instruction for, organized instruction for adult course. One of the things that we noticed with all these bills that came out in this legislative session was the need for us to be responsive to changes that are coming, whether that be through technology or through legislative changes. Right now, we currently have the adult education requirements for a 6-hour course in rule. That does not allow us to be responsive to make time for items like SB 30, the Community Safety Act, where we're limited on that 6 hours in a very tight window where everything's prescribed on exactly what you will do and how long you have to do it. We add in a 16-minute video plus time stops and a presentation. All of a sudden, we can't incorporate that change into the 6-hour curriculum without a rule change. One of the recommendations is that those rules come out of rule and they become a program of organized instruction, much like there is for the Team 32-hour course. That will give the department the ability to be reflexive to changes as they come up. If it's a technology or vehicle change that no one's aware of, or just hits overnight, we see progression in automated vehicles and things like that. Or if it's something like Community Safety Act, where we can modify that and change it without having to go through rule, get that out to everybody. So that's one of the documents that we're providing today for you all to take a look at. And certainly, until rules are changed, it's not anything that's going to be out there, but to get the juices flowing and the brain process happening as far as potentially what we could be looking at so that all of our programs can be responsive to the needs of the state, technology, or statute. We're also looking at, we have a lot of other changes coming in education and examination. You brought up the license renewal application form for driving safety instructors earlier, which is handled by licensing. We do know that there's potential for fee changes coming, so we are prepping also all of the forms for schools, course providers, anything that might have to do with anything curriculum related or schools for applications for courses. All of those are being updated to not only reflect potential new prices and new fee changes, but also to standardize that information so that every document that you're getting from education examination for an application, whether it be for a course provider of this type or another, will look the same, will be easy to read, it'll be standardized with instructions, layout, formatting. So we're really excited to, even if fees do not change, to implement the new look to clarify things. I know that we had our licensing group up here and our customer service group talk about the clarity of information we put out there to reduce confusion, phone calls, and this is in the effort to do that as well. And then that's all I have, so if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Question, you were speaking about the adult course.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have something for us on that, did you say, or?
Okay, sorry. You should get something here shortly. My apologies, I thought you already had it.
And Nina Saint, another question, because especially that one actually isn't a lot of the curriculum content laid out in statute.
Yes,
where
ma'am.
it's limits, it doesn't have another category.
Correct.
Okay.
And it is done, it's broken down a little bit differently. How we've taken the approach to it is not in modules like the teen is. It's done as topics that we're discussing. So we still bring all of those in. It's just the timings that we felt the appropriate areas that we can fit the Community Safety Act into. But yes, we are beheld by certain requirements within statute, as you're well aware of.
Okay. Anybody else? Michael, Angie, thank you so much.
Thank y'all very much.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis, when we provide the handouts, if we want to and need to go back to the education group to come back to the table, we can do that, okay?
Thank you so much. Our next item on the agenda is E5. This is field inspections.
Good morning, Chairman Benavides, members of the committee. My name is Julianne Crocker. I'm the lead facilitator for field inspections, and I'm stepping in today for our director, Tanya Guthrow. So from our report, a couple of things. We've held some training since our last meeting with you. So I'd like to formally thank Ford Strawn and Shanice Villanova from our E&E division for their help in conducting that training and getting our management and training team up to speed on the DES program. I'd also like to thank Delinda Jew, who is one of our inspectors, who took us out in the field and really showed us the ropes. Also, since we met, we've had some changes in our personnel. Fernando Reyes was promoted to manager of our South region. We also promoted Ulysses Ocio and Juan Munoz to the positions of liaison, so they are taking on training roles within our division. We are also currently filling some inspector roles. We have 4 openings. We're finishing up interviews this week as we speak and hope to have those persons hired. The areas in which we are hiring are 2 in DFW, 1 in Houston, and 1 in the San Marcos, New Braunfels areas. You also have our statistics. We did do quite a few inspections in the month of July. That tends to be a busy month for us, so don't expect those kind of numbers every month. I appreciate your time this morning if you have any questions.
Any questions, committee members? Julianne, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item on the agenda, E6, the executive office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and advisory board members. I'm Nick Voinas, TDLR Chief of Staff. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for your service to the program and to the state. And here to kind of bring you a summary of what's been happening around the agency this summer. And this summer, we completed our strategic plan. And that's something that the legislature mandates all state agencies due every 2 years, and it's something that we take very seriously. We hosted external sessions around the state in Arlington, El Paso, Houston, McAllen, and Austin, and your program was well represented. These sessions were an opportunity for everyone to come, share ideas and opinions on how we're doing and how we can improve. For those who were unable to make a session, we posted survey questions on our Facebook page and our TDLR website so they could participate as well. We also conducted internal sessions with our staffs throughout the agency. The final report was completed and has been submitted to the Office of the Governor and the Legislative Budget Board. It's available for viewing on tdlr.texas.gov. As you know, 2 initiatives that pertain to this program were included. One that would amend the statute to remove the requirement that all driver education schools must be in a physical building or classroom. And this change removes the business impediment for schools that wish to operate exclusively online. And we had another one that would amend the statute to provide TDLR with the authority to develop alternative pathways to becoming a driver education instructor. And this would allow for more flexibility in licensing and not be overly burdensome. Following the strat plan, the staff went to work on our legislative appropriations request, and staff identified exceptional items, rider requests. They provided information on revenue estimates and expenses, and that report was completed and submitted to the governor's office and the LBB as well. Our executive director and staff have been busy here recently, participating in interim hearings. Last week with the governor's budget office and the LBB, and yesterday with the Senate Business and Commerce Committee, and all this in preparation for the next legislative session in January. Also wanted to touch on, as I like to, outreach, including your website, and update you on numbers associated to the program. Over the past 6 months, your website has had 1.5 million page views, and that's an average of 8,309 page views per day. It's one of our busier sites. 57% of those visitors accessed your site through a personal computer, and while 38% did so from a smartphone, 5% from a tablet. The top reasons for visiting the site were to search for courses, schools, providers, followed by parent-taught program, frequently asked questions, continuing education and instructor development courses, and driver-instructor applications and forms. I also want to go back, and when I thanked Jacqueline and a few others, I left out a few folks, and I want to go back and give them a pat on the back as well, but we couldn't have done all this without our web team. And Mike Fickle and Terry Westrom and our OSC guys, Jeff Copas, Doug Van Pelt, Eric Beverly, and Steve Bruno, it was a true team effort. And I'm real proud of them all. And I think we'll see the benefits very, very soon. In addition to our web presence, also wanted to, again, pitch our social media outlets. Please follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And keep up with TDLR news and events there. We also wanted to mention that you have a group of more than 5,200 subscribers that receive various emails pertaining to this program. And if someone would like to receive those that is not, they just can simply go to tdlr.texas.gov and subscribe there. So if you have any questions, be glad to answer.
Members? It's great information, Nick. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis, I think Carla's going to give a little bit more texture on our legislative appropriations request. Nick, outstanding report.
Good morning, Board. Carla James, TDLR. In the same vein that Nick was in, I want to thank all the employees of TDLR for working on the strategic plan. Every single one of them had a hand in that document. And it's a fairly large task. You look out on our website and you see however many pages it was, but it took 450 of us and to really go through that. We received 8,000 comments through our travels around the state and via the web. So all of those comments had to be gone through, determined where they belong in legislative areas, in budget areas, in rural areas. And so I just want to tell everybody who's watching, thank you very much. So real quickly on our legislative appropriations request, we did ask for 4 exceptional items. The biggest being a single licensing system. What most folks don't know as they work with us is we have 9 disparate licensing systems that we have to work off, which means our licensing staff and our customer service staff have to be able to use 9 different systems that frankly don't play very well together. They're not written in the same language. Some of them are very old. Some of them are newer, but not as mobile and as nimble is the word I'm looking for. 1 cup of coffee this morning. So we are requesting the authority to build a new system, and one that would incorporate all that we have and potential new as the legislature deems it appropriate to move programs over or create new licenses. So that's our first one. The second one is one that's a little bit unique to us, and we haven't gone down this road before. We are members of a task force with the Office of Attorney General and the Governor's Office to work on human trafficking. And so we've requested some resources to address that. We have the ability to go into businesses as part of our inspection process. And so often we are the first eyes to see potential human trafficking, and some in more of our professions than others, but we've requested some resources to try to address that so that we can work with local law enforcement and provide them information and training on how to see it and report it. Our third and fourth exceptional items are simply asking for some of the resources that we lost during the last legislative session. The revenue outlook was not as pleasant last session as it looks to be this time, and so the agency lost 14 positions to deal with enforcement cases, inspections, and licensing and customer service. So we're not asking for all 14 back, we're asking for 7 back to try to get us back to the level of customer service we're accustomed to giving. I think all of our customers are aware that we work fairly quickly and are very customer service friendly. And although I don't think the general populace has noticed a significant change in our customer service, we have. So we have a higher standard than we're able to reach right now. So we're requesting some of those resources back. So in a nutshell, that's what we're asking for. And you will see us going up to the Capitol and going through a number of hearings to talk about our request. And hopefully we will be reporting to you after next May that we were successful. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Blake, you look like you have a question.
Could you just expand on, Blake Garrett, could you expand on the comment around the loss in revenue? Or
the loss in
last year and how you believe it's coming back this year?
Oh, sure. Well, I used to work at the comptroller's office. I'm not there anymore, but going into last legislative session, the biennial revenue estimate that the comptroller's office puts out was not looking very good. There had been some significant drops in some of the revenue for the state, and I believe from what I'm reading that the oil and natural gas boom out in West Texas has created a much better revenue outlook at this time. And generally speaking, I'm not going to say that. It's just looking better. And the comptroller's office has come out with that revenue estimate. That's basically the beginning checkbook for the legislature. Our Constitution does not allow us to spend more than is in the checkbook. So what the legislature will see when they come into town in January is that the checkbook has more money in it to begin the discussions about what agencies will get appropriated. And as a reminder, well, maybe not a reminder, us budget people say it's a reminder, but regulatory agencies have to pay our way. So whatever we're appropriated, we will come up with through revenue, but we feel comfortable that the revenue that we're seeing now and any proposed reductions in revenues across any program or any profession, we will still be able to bring in the revenue necessary without fee increases at this time. I don't know if that's where you were heading.
It's helpful, and I have a follow-up, and if it's not the appropriate time, please just let me know. Related to TDLR's revenue, how is that trending year over year? And then also a level down, I'd be curious about the driver safety and driver education department from a revenue standpoint.
Sure,
also.
I absolutely don't have that off the top of my head.
And Blake, before you leave, we'll get you a copy of it. As part of the legislative appropriations request, we're required to put in our estimated revenue going over the next biennium and a little bit further out. And it also lists the different revenue streams that we have, whether it's the professional licensing fees or the driver training fees. So we'll be able to show you what we've projected on that.
And as a side note, Carla James, TDLR, regulatory agencies are restricted from charging exorbitant fees and trying to take a chunk of cash and putting it back into the general revenue account. That's not how we're allowed to run the agency. So that's not what you're going to see from us.
Any more questions? Thank you, Nick and Carla. I appreciate that. At this moment, I'd like to recess, take a little break, if you all don't mind. And I apologize, Darla Mark. I know you guys are setting up already. It'll be a quick 10-minute break, and then we'll get right back. Sorry, thank you so much. We're on a break.
got into real estate.
Good morning. We are back. The meeting is back in order. I want to quickly recognize that one of our committee members is here. Victoria Barroso has arrived. Hello. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. Excellent. Before I proceed, committee members, any questions before we move on to the next agenda item? All right. Our next item on the agenda is item F, and this is discussion possible action on progress of curriculum and rule work groups regarding rule amendments to the TAC Chapter 8, including but not limited to safeguards to prevent unauthorized production or misuse of electronic course completion certificates and modification to the POI or Program of Organized Instruction. That's a long one. Good morning, Della. How are you?
Good morning, members. Della Lindquist, Deputy General Counsel. I invited myself to help Mark today, although he doesn't need help. But I thought I just keep turning up like a bad penny to these meetings. But I thought it might be helpful to give a little bit of an overview of where we've come and where we are today for those who might be in the audience or watching behind me or out there in TV land, just to see how far this program has come in a relatively short amount of time, where we are today, and then we've got some things going on. And because there's so many moving parts, it's hard for me to understand, and if it's hard for me, I
I can only imagine what it is for the average person out there trying to kind of see what's going on. So as you may recall, in legislative session 2015, in the beginning there was 2015 there was House Bill 1786, which brought this program over to TDLR from various statutes, Chapter 29 of the Transportation Code, and also in the Education, 29 of the Education Code, and several chapters in the Transportation Code. Then we appointed the board that fall. So you guys have been aboard since October of 2015. So 3 years. It's gone pretty fast, at least for me, just seeing everything that we've accomplished. We kicked in and almost immediately began doing phase 1 of the rules. We brought all the rules from several different chapters all over the Texas Administrative Code, kind of in this Frankenstein thing. And then we grappled with it, reorganized it, and we're still tweaking it to this day. But the first changes, remember, that we made had to do with licensing. We organized it in a little bit more understandable form, and we talked about the licensing and regulation procedures and that kind of thing. And we committed to dealing with the curriculum and some of those more specific, what's being taught in the phase 2, which Mark can talk about and which we're right in the middle of and actually winding down. We'd hoped to have the phase 2 ready to present to you earlier than today, but because of the bills that happened in the last legislative session 2017, we needed to handle those and deal with those, the video and everything else that came upon us. Took some time, and we wanted to give fair time and allocation to not only the curriculum work group and what's in that, but also recall we got 64 comments from that first phase of the rulemaking. Some of them we addressed and made changes at that time, and some of them we said, I think they may relate more to the curriculum or something down the road, or even a statute change. So we sort of delayed some of those. We'll be addressing the unaddressed comments when we're dealing with phase 2 and the curriculum and all of that, which we plan to present to you at the next board meeting when we pick a date, probably toward the end of October or something like that. So that was just my little portion of it to sort of remind everybody we've come a long way with a large board. A lot of you have maybe never been on a board before, and I just wanted to say how amazing it's been to work with you in the various work groups to get us where we are today. It may have seemed like there was a lot of minutia to deal with and a lot of just stuff, but you guys have been bureaucracy, but you guys have been amazing. And I think we have, if you think about it and look at it from kind of a high level, you've really done an amazing job. And hopefully it's been somewhat interesting and fun to help be a huge part of bringing this program to where we are today. I'm working with Mark and the team on the strategic plan initiatives that you may have read on our website for the statute for Chapter 1001 Education Code. There were 3 initiatives. Two initiatives, really. One was to sort of take the driver education schools from a requirement to be a brick and mortar only type environment, and the other one was to sort of break down some of the barriers to driver education instructor requirements and licenses. So we will have a draft of that bill, which we're working on. Don't have anything for today, but it will obviously be something as we roll through here through TDLR. So with that, unless you have any questions, I'll just kind of kick it over to Mark to take where we are and where we're going. So thank you.
Good morning, Mark Ladney, Assistant General Counsel. I'm going to try not to repeat too much of what Della said, but certainly wanted to express staff's appreciation to the committee members for the invaluable assistance that they've given over the years since the program's been here since 2015. And I wanted to note a couple of things to sort of let you know where we've been and where we are now. As you know, Phase 1 dealt with subchapters A through L relating to driver education and safety, and those were dealing with licensing and regulatory functions. And then phase 2 is dealing with subchapters M and N to deal with curriculum. And I'd like to note some of the accomplishments that have been made since we undertook the task to implement House Bill 1786. Rules have been adopted to implement SB 30, the Community Safety Education Act. Adoption of rules to implement 1051, which will result in the nation's, if not first, the first driver education course in American Sign Language. Adoption of rules implementing HB 1372 relating to the proper use and instruction of child safety seats in driver education courses and safety courses. Development of rules implementing SB 848 and HB 912 relating to the electronic issuance of driver safety certificates, which we'll be talking about more later on today. The rulemakings have resulted in the removal of a lot of unnecessary language, and everybody likes to see the rules count come down. Getting rid of rules that are no longer required by statute, the easing of some business operation restrictions, clarifying some of the licensing requirements, and certainly correcting agency references. We've also addressed such issues in rule where we removed outdated language and modified authorized persons to instruct parent-taught driver's education and reduced driver education course provider bond amounts. Phase 1 on subchapters A through L in Chapter 84 is almost complete. As Della said, we have some old rule comments from Phase 1 that we're going to have to implement and incorporate in the current rulemakings that we're working on. And we'll have a work group scheduled to deal with those probably sometime early next month with the rules work group. Phase 2 is already in progress, dealing with curriculum. The first meeting was on July 12th. We have another meeting scheduled for September 7th to address the remainder of the issues that are left unresolved and to the rule changes that we've been making in those subchapters M and N. We'll be working on the proposed changes that have been made to shore them up, to get the work group fully on board with whatever changes are made, because we're exchanging a lot of information, certainly as Nina and Carlos can tell you. We're exchanging a lot of information, making a lot of changes, and we're trying to make sure that every member of the group is on board. So we'll be having that meeting in September to do just that. But there's been a lot of progress made to date. The curriculum work group has addressed such issues as redefining what constitutes a teacher of record, driving education instructors' roles and responsibilities, changes in procedures and requirements related to courses of instruction in driver education and driver safety schools, and then, of course, the roles and responsibility of a teacher of record. So we will be presenting those rules to you shortly, the entire package, as Della said. We expect to basically present all of the curriculum rules probably in the first week in November, which I think is going to be your next meeting. So again, I'd certainly like to thank you. Staff would like to thank you for all the assistance and the education and your expertise. We certainly couldn't do what it is that we do without the help of each and every one of you. And thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Members, any questions?
I do. David Bruce. First, thanks. I know it's been countless emails, lots of phone calls, and lots of meetings. So Mark and team and everyone, thank you for all the effort. For the phase 2, I would like just to make a suggestion that perhaps we go ahead and calendar. I know we got the September 7th meeting for the subcommittee to meet or to have a phone call, but perhaps we go ahead and try to get on the calendar in the very near future, second or third meeting, because it is an enormous amount of work, and lots of people have lots of different viewpoints and lots of different skill sets, and so the odds of us trying to wrap it up in one meeting, Mark, may be challenging. So if we can go and get on everyone's calendar for a second or third meeting as well, we might not need them all, but that way we can all participate. So that's just my comment. But thank you.
That would be for the curriculum work group,
yes, that is correct.
Okay, because this will be meeting number 2 for us on this.
Correct.
Okay, so yeah, that's not a problem. We can calendar a third meeting in there.
Excellent. Anybody else? Thank you so much, Mark and Della. Our next item, I'm actually going to change H and G. I wanted to cover agenda item H first. Since you're already there, Mark, you're prepared for that. Do you mind?
Actually, we're going to have a little bit of a presentation
Okay.
from some members from E&E and IT on this. So I was going to turn it over to them to present the electronic certificate.
But this is still item H.
Yeah, it's still item H.
Perfect, okay.
And if you'll remember, at our last meeting, we had given you a kind of a mock-up of,
right.
of what we were thinking that the certificates were going to use. They were under secret top security clearance
That's
for you
right.
guys. But you know, you've gotten a packet with the finalized mock-up
Sure.
on there. Yes, that's it. And as I'm going to turn this over to Fort Strawn, and he's going to give you an idea as what has been done since we met in May to get the certificates finalized and what the process and procedure is going to be going forward in the distribution and qualification of same.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mark. Real quickly, I just want to say this is agenda item H, and the discussion is in regards to update on status of and possible recommendation for approval of the department's process for electronic issuance of the Uniform Certificate of Completion for the driving safety course. So again, thank you so much. Ford.
Good morning again, Chairman and members.
Morning.
Michael Strawn, Education Examination. I will be joined by Fong from IT to go over a presentation, but first I kind of wanted to, Mark set me up really well with what we have done to get to where we are today when it comes to the actual certificate. We had not only the great input from all of you all, we got a lot of emails, we met with the work group. Last time we were up here for the advisory board, you all looked at the sample certificate, had excellent feedback. All those changes have been incorporated into the certificate you have today. What you have today also does show some temporary things, like the change from moniker won't be there unless there is a change from. It's kind of a placeholder, but all that's described inside the certificate specifications. Before we got there, though, we have reached out, and it's been an ongoing process. Anything that we do here at TDLR, we want to be inclusive. We want to make sure everybody is heard. So we reached out to Office of Court Administrators, OCA, Texas Municipal Courts Education Center, TMCEC. We've reached out to them, have them use their networking to reach out to courts, administrators, clerks, everybody out there to let them know what we're intending to do as far as standardizing certificates, as far as our validation system that we're looking at to ensure that they have buy-in, that they've also had, they're an extremely important component to this system. If we all launch something of what we feel today is great, and then we send it out to them, it's a potential for disaster and complaints that will come back to you all as course providers. So we don't want to do that. We reached out to them. We went out to San Antonio, for example, spoke to over 186 people, administrators, clerks, judges. Did a presentation for them, gave them the mock-up, what we intended to do with the validation system. And they loved it. They loved the inclusiveness. They loved the fact that they want to continue a relationship with TDLR, with our course providers, to make sure that we continue to grow. There's some things that they want to see eventually come out of validation systems that we're looking at as well. So it's been a great process. Without the feedback, without the buy-in from all of these groups, we would not be where we are today. And so again, thank you all. A thank you to all the clerks and TMCEC, OCA, for helping us to get this message out across the board. The certificate you have today, as I said, incorporates everything from the change processes that we didn't have there below. I believe that was Blake that brought that to my attention, as far as needing to make sure we had areas that could fit in any of the changed areas. So that was a great recommendation. Appreciate that greatly. And so we're hoping today that y'all can look at that and feel comfortable with the certificate we have and the design. There's been some talk about the formatting that it will be provided to course providers to use in. We have multiple formats that it can be released in, and I think that we can be responsive enough or fluid enough to provide it however a certain course provider may need it to implement into their systems as well. So without any question, or if you have any questions on certificate, I'll be happy to answer it. If not, I'll bring up Fong, and he will happily walk y'all through the validation system and what we're looking at.
Ford, I got a question for you real
Yes, sir.
quick. Glenn Winningham. On the certificate, good job. I see the verification process has been added to it. The instructor TDLR number, was changed on it. One thing that we did bring up, because we were thinking about the 6x9 window envelopes from the last time, the placement on this, one thing was we wanted to make sure that the court didn't show up in the window. So I do notice that there is some room there. A lot of those are standard envelopes. The window placement on may vary a little bit. I would suggest maybe just bumping that court info piece up just a little bit to make sure that it stays out of the window. And then the student name and mailing address, I don't know if everything can fit underneath there to show up properly in the window. So maybe just kind of bump that up a little bit as well, and then have that name and everything fall underneath there. Okay. Just need to make sure that it just fits.
Absolutely.
That's all.
And Glenn, I think you brought that up too. And so when I had folded it and tested it in the office, it did fit within. We have two different 6x9 envelopes, and it fit into both of them. But I do think that it would help to make sure that, especially if you're seeing it, if you take that and are seeing that it doesn't line up in your windows, let me know. There is some room in that area that I can make adjustments in the margins.
Okay.
There may be machines that people use or they're hand folding it, so we will try to account for any error and adjustment that may happen in that process. So
Cool.
it's great.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
Any more questions? Thanks so much.
Yes.
Yes,
Nina
go right ahead.
Nina Saint, so this is going to be the certificate for both electronic and mailing, and so individuals that are used to crash printing,
I'm not familiar with the terminology crash printing.
it means you've got several layers, so actually the court copy and the insurance copy is the second layer, and it pushes the information through and it comes up.
It
The
was
carbon.
Yeah, the dot matrix.
Or dot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the carbon copy paper. The last I remember that when we came out of this is that we wanted to do one certificate look and paper type even from the last advisory board meeting. That was my understanding based on that, is that we would move away from that, and the validation system would be the security piece behind validating if that certificate was true or not. So to answer your question in a simplistic way, yes, this would be the certificate that is used for both mailing and online issuance.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis. None, does that work? I'm trying to figure out, is that going to work and do what we need it to do?
You'd have to ask someone that crash prints right now.
Okay. You're not a crash printer, okay.
No, but I do know that
But there's some that do that.
some that do that.
Okay.
And they're set up for that process, and I don't know. Just want to get that on record, so
No, thank you very
somebody
much.
might speak up that does that.
I'll still be available for questions, but I'm going to help run the PowerPoint from over there because our mouse wasn't reaching for clicking earlier. So.
Good morning, committee members.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fong, and Fong Don. I'm with the IT department within TDLR, and I'm very delighted this morning to be here to share with you our current process for validating driving safety certificates from course providers. In front of you are this copy of the slides I'll be presenting, and they're just a quick outline of our process. Since December of 2015, TDLR has a website where course providers can log in and share, upload information regarding completion of student data completion of driving safety courses. And this website has been available for all course providers. And in the next slide, you can see, the next slide please, that we do provide an Excel template for course providers to follow. It indicates the data structure, the formats that we recommend them to enter, for example, date of birth, certificate numbers, so that it's easier for us to verify and validate this information before we upload into our system. Fortunately, a lot of the course providers are able to follow these templates, but there are still quite a number that don't. And as a result, we ourselves have to go in and correct the data before we can upload the data into our system. And so we like to encourage all the course providers to please follow these Excel templates, make it easier for us.
Fong, this is Brian. Can you name them on the record right now who's not doing it right? I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. Absolutely joking.
No, I apologize. I'm going to interrupt. Fong, I want to make sure when we upload, because I'm a driving safety course provider, when we upload the data, we usually get a little notice that says that it was processed, was no problems at all. If there was a problem, you'd notify us, the course providers.
Correct.
If the template's off, anything's off, we would get a discrepancy email
But-
or something.
True, but so far we've been very kind to all the course providers.
Right.
We'll be correcting the formats for you.
Sure.
So that we can upload the information into our system.
Let us know.
Yeah,
Let
but
us know.
going forward, we will. Going forward, as the volume increase, we will email you with the rejections.
Okay.
Because right now, if we reject, it'd be about 7% that would get rejected, because a lot of these formats are not correct, because their birds will have two bars instead of one, or the numbers have quotes between them. They're just not following correct formats.
But you'll
definitely
start.
going forward, we will.
You'll start letting
We
us
will.
know if there's any problems. Absolutely.
Yes,
We want to
yes,
help
yes,
in that
yes.
process.
This
Thank
is
you so
Carlos
much.
Reyna. Did you say 7% or 70%?
About 70 is quite high right now.
Whoa, Rick, get on the ball.
Because I think the course providers, they just upload the file. They don't really verify all the data. But yet, there are a good number that do a good job. And I appreciate all those course providers who do take the extra effort.
Those 30%.
Yes. Yes.
Fong, you represent the very best of TDLR. That was
Man,
so
isn't that
kind.
good?
Everyone's like, oh my gosh, we're all in the room.
Yeah. I mean, there's one
How do
lady.
you make 30%ers look good?
Yes.
And he just did.
There's one lady in particular, she drives down from Temple and hands me a flash drive with her file, and her file is perfect. There's no problems.
Wow.
She really goes up the extra
That's
effort file.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. In the next slide, so you see since December 2015, we have processed over 1.7 million records from 92 different course providers. On average, we get about 15 files from the course providers, but based on our rule, all the course providers should and need to upload their student completion data to us within 30 days so that we can provide information to the public.
But we're going to be changing that. Ricardo Benavides, Chair, we're changing that to 5 days, right? The data submission?
That's correct. 5
So that
days.
we can have the data right there. That's being changed because obviously if a court's going to validate, they're not going to wait 30 days to check if a certificate's good immediately. So we are doing the 5. I think we were good on that. Just wanted to mention that.
That'd be great, because right now, even 30 days, some providers take a year to upload information. So
Wow.
5 days would definitely be much better, increase better effort.
Thank you.
And we do provide report. It's available via our website. It's public information of all the course providers who have submitted their data to us. And you do have a copy of that report along with the slide package. And it shows the volume that we get from different course providers and how they're divided per month. And that's available there via Excel or HTML format. Now we have implemented a new website where you can go in there and enter in any certificate numbers, and we can validate right then and there if that certificate is valid. We'll tell you who the student is and the school that they have completed the course and the date that they have completed the course. So that is available right now on our TDLR website.
That's really nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
And so, yep. And then, shortcut this out.
Fong, this is David Bruce. First of all, I wish I was as nice as you are. That is unbelievable. The people that I know that work with you quite a bit, they say nothing but the greatest things about you, and you're always so
Thank you.
helpful. So it's nice to meet you in person. I just want to clarify. So for the 30%ers that do provide the data in the right format and it gets uploaded, it's uploaded automatically into the database, correct? There's no intervention, there's no TDLR work that needs to be done. If the, say differently, if the course provider uploads the data in the right format, it's in the database and it's done.
That's very true, sir. Yes, I mean, if it's correct, it gets uploaded instantly. It's where it gets rejected that we have to go into the file and open the file up and look at it and create the data.
Again, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned this, but perhaps because the 5 days is you're gonna get more and more files.
Yes.
And it's up, I mean, I'm a course provider as well, it's up to us to make sure we follow the rules. So if you would notify us, I mean, whomever it is, they would learn how to format the file correctly once, and then going forward, it would take the pressure off of you and your team, so I think that'd be a great suggestion.
And
Thank you again for all your help.
And David, speaking to that, I mean, the 5-day rule, and as Fong said as well, you know, right now we don't have the best rate. We'd like to see that come up, and that's where education and examination is going to come into play as far as reaching out to course providers, educating them, working with IT on what can be done better. We also see that right now, maybe not everybody is as quick to upload those files as they need to be, but we have long believed that the value of uploading when courts are checking their certificates for validity is going to be much higher. You know, course providers who are getting calls from their customers because they haven't uploaded a file or sent it to them is going to be a driving factor in making sure they are motivated to provide that, so that their customers aren't being turned away. Because word of mouth, if your customers are being turned away for not validating in the system, you know, it can hurt business. And so it will help with the compliance of the rule. And as you said, Chairman, that right now it is 30 days, but for all intents and purposes, until that rule's changed, we did cite current statute, or current rule.
Absolutely.
Blake Garrett, Fong, I completely echo David's sentiments. On top of that, just to build upon it a little bit, could course providers proactively reach out to you or someone else in your department to ask how, if they're in that 70% or the 30%, and those that are in the 70% maybe be proactive about making those fixes before you're getting 6 times the amount of files?
Well, sir, yes, a few do contact me directly and ask for that assistance. And so we definitely encourage that if they could. We'll be happy to help them for the first couple of files so that going forward, their files are more correct.
Cool. Could we get your email somehow maybe afterwards?
I think we may build off of the email, and customer service may kick me, but we have that help@tdlr.texas.gov, and maybe in the subject line, put that, and we can make sure that
Fong,
that gets the
please
phone.
help.
Yeah, Fong, reach out, save me.
Yes.
And that way, you won't go directly to Fong. But he's amazing, and when I said he does represent the best of us, he really does. Thank you for the kind words about him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And one last statement, I apologize. We do have a test site available as well. We are
Awesome.
watching the video for SB30 afterwards. We're more than happy to demo that as well.
Anybody else?
Fong,
Any
one last question, and this is in the weeds, so I apologize, but have you all considered implementing some sort of feedback on the uploading process to let people right then know if the records have been successfully imported or not?
We
Or
haven't
maybe
had
it's
yet,
some-
but it's a good recommendation. We can definitely do that. We can definitely have that available on our website so that course providers can provide feedback.
I think that
Definitely.
potentially could be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
One last thing, Ford, sorry, Glenn Winningham. I missed it if you said it. Is the validation measure active right now? Or-
The link to the website that's on there is still the placeholder, because even what we have right now is not forward-facing to the public. It's a test website.
Okay.
But it's a matter of changing the URL on there.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so-
Yeah, and we did
Thank
upload
you.
to production yesterday, so it should be there under driving safety.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis. Blake, let me make sure that we answered your question. Were you asking that when the information is uploaded, that there is a notice saying successful or not? Or were you asking for feedback saying, this is how I think you could improve the process for uploading?
I was starting by just understanding if that has been considered, but the former of what you said,
Yeah.
with successful, not successful, and potentially number of records uploaded, which is
We-
also helpful.
Yes, sir. Right now, we do provide the feedback as far as successful or rejected or partially rejected. We do provide the feedback to
Okay,
the
great.
providers.
I just want to make sure we answered your question.
Okay, thank you.
Fong, thank you.
I have one more question. When does this go live?
You mean the website?
The correct. When can a court go in and check?
We can do it right now.
Really?
We have uploaded all the data onto our system, and you can enter in the certificate number.
Oh, that's
and, choose
fantastic.
for it. Again, it's based on what we have as of last Friday, what we have received.
Sure.
Kevin Knapp, and the communication to the court systems, how are we doing that to let them know?
Until everything is approved through exec, through you all, we're holding off on notice and an actual start date. They just launched the website to get it up and functioning, and then we'll launch the pieces, and we have not come up with an official date until we meet. I don't want to misspeak like Brian does and tell you September 1, because I don't know at this point, but they have the validation tool in place. We did check it. We checked the testing system the other day. It functioned great. It did exactly what we expected it to do, and so as soon as the blessings are made through our chain of command and for you all, we're happy to start telling people when that requirement will be in full force.
Well, just a suggestion, and you already know this, but until you get that 70% up to par and the court systems, and it's successful all the time, I mean, if they hit, if they do it 4 or 5 times and one of them validates, they're not going to use that system.
Correct.
So
yes.
we've got to get that 70%.
Definitely.
Yeah. Not telling you anything you don't know.
Yeah.
Great work, guys.
Yeah.
Good job on getting that implemented.
This is Carlos. I think what we're telling you is you got to stop being nice.
Thank you, Carlos. Yes, sir, yes. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you
time.
both. Appreciate it. Excellent. Okay. We have, our next item on the agenda is item G. This one is discussion and possible recommendation for adoption of the proposed rule amendments to 16 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 84, subchapters, to reduce program fees and to implement Senate Bill 848 and House Bill 912 from the 85 legislature regular session regarding the option of electronic delivery of uniform certificate of completions and all public comments received. Excellent. Mark?
Hello again, Mark Lightning, Assistant General Counsel. Basically, wanted to go through this rule package to get your recommendations for a motion to adopt the proposed rules without changes to the Commission. The rules at present are implementing the remainder of SB 848 and House Bill 912 regarding the issuance of the option for the issuance of electronic certificates and course completion for driver safety schools and course providers. And additionally, the proposed rule package addresses fee reductions to reflect reduced administrative costs to implement the driver education safety program consistent with the legislative mandates on agency revenue neutrality under Occupations Code 51 and the Education Code 1001. So what I'm going to do is basically go through the changes that we've made, and we've also received comments. Well, the rule package was published as approved by this board back in May. It was published in the Register on July 13th. Public comment closed on August 13th. We received 14 public comments. Well, actually, we received 13 during the 30-day period, and we received one late one that came in within the last couple of days. So, as I said, I'd like to address the comments individually to the rules as we go. And if there's any questions, we can kind of deal with them as we deal with them. Okay. Now, as far as the specific changes,
Mr. Gladney, I apologize, Blake Garrett. I have a question. So, I speak just for myself, am not prepared to approve the fee reductions today. I personally feel we should discuss as a work group and present something based on public comment, something different than we would propose today. However, and I, again, speak for myself, would be happy and eager to discuss the electronic cert piece. Is that, obviously I need to make a motion and it has to be approved, but is that a possibility today?
Well, I think on the agenda today was a motion to approve the rule changes. If you were to disagree with certain parts of the rule package, you could vote accordingly, yes or no. But today is the purpose is to vote to recommend these rule changes to the commission. If you all have some amendments that you wanted to make, you could certainly make whatever amendments you wanted to and vote on that. However, today's meeting is the purpose to approve the rule changes, so they can be recommended to the commission either as without changes or with changes.
Why don't we do this, Mark? Ricardo Benavides, Chair. Why don't you go ahead and proceed with your presentation, and then committee members will decide on what we do, what actions we take after that. So we want to hear you out first, and then we'll decide what we're going to do in just a bit. Thank you.
Okay, just a brief overview on the specific changes that have been made. The proposed amendments to Section 84.61 require driver safety schools and course providers to submit a plan for electronic issuance of uniform certificates of course completion for approval by the department prior to issuing them electronically. The next proposed change is an amendment to 84.63 to allow certificates to be issued electronically and amends the fee for a duplicate certificate to be more flexible. The next change is to 84.300, which reduces the driver education school fees. The next proposed change is to 84.301 to clarify and reduce the driver safety fees. The next proposed change is to 84.302 to reduce the drug and alcohol driving awareness fees. So those constitute the proposed changes in those sections. So now I'll move on to the comments that we received. And first of all, the department thanks everyone who submitted comments. I want to assure you that comments are not ignored. They are read in their entirety. They are considered in their entirety when we come up with a department response. So many thanks to everybody who submitted comments with regard to this matter. Okay. First comment that we received expressed concerns about the proposed fee reductions in the DES program related to the licensure of course providers. The commenter was concerned about the entry of fly-by-night operators in sites SB 964 passed by the 74th Regular Legislature in 1995 as prohibiting the department from revising the driving safety course provider licensing and course approval fees. The commenter further asserted that the extent of the department's authority was limited by the laws that were passed during the 85th Regular Legislature in HB 12 and SB 848. Commenter contends that the department was not given authority under those two aforementioned bills in the last session to modify fees by the legislature during that period. Okay. The department appreciates the commenter's concerns and notes that the provisions of Senate Bill 964 passed in 1995 were applicable to TEA when they were administering the DES program. On September 1st, 2015, the regulation of driver education schools, driver safety course providers, driver safety schools, and instructors came under 1001 Texas Education Code, was transferred to TDLR. So this transfer was a result of the passing of House Bill 1786. As a consequence, the DES program came under the administration and jurisdiction of the department. Thus, after the transfer of the program to the department, the program rules are now set in rule and not in statute. Fees are authorized
Excuse me, Brian
under the-
Francis. Mark,
Pardon?
I think you meant to say that the program fees are set in rule and not by statute.
Oh, yeah, the program fees, that's why, I thought I said that.
You said rules are rules.
Oh, sorry, program
all right.
fees, yeah. The fees are authorized, the program fees are authorized under the DES program pursuant to Texas Education Code 1001.151, which allows the commission to set fees by rule in amount sufficient to cover administrative costs. The statute applies to the application, license, and registration fees, which are directly germane and applicable to the proposed program fee reductions in these rule amendments. Moreover, the department does note and acknowledge the reduction of fees as proposed in the rule amendments may reduce entry burdens on marketplace entrants in the opening driver training schools, which will provide more competition and reduce costs to their customers and students. Thus, the department made no changes to the proposed rule in response to this particular comment. Okay, I guess if there's no questions, we're moving forward on the next set of comments. Okay. 7 commenters contended the proposed fee reduction would significantly increase the number of participants in the driver training program, specifically the driver safety education market. The commenters expressed concern that certain entrants may seek to create multiple companies providing content that gain advantage over smaller competitors by being listed multiple times on the department website as they compete for students and consumers. The commenters also cited the increased number of new entrants may degrade quality of service and course content. They contended the proposed fee reductions would affect in-state employment, profitability among competitors, and damage goodwill with consumers. The department responded by saying it recognizes the proposed fee reductions will likely increase the number of participants seeking licensure as course providers in the driving safety education market. However, the department perceives increased competition as a benefit to the stakeholders and the public. Reduced program licensing fees benefits current licensees and license applicants with lower upfront costs. The department notes that consolidation of licensing programs under one agency increases efficiencies in the division of labor, lowers administration costs, thus benefiting taxpayers, and more equitably allocates employee workload in licensing course approvals and enforcement. The lowering of the administration fees to the department in the DS program allows for a reduction in program fees consistent with the directives of the Texas Occupations Code, Chapter 51, and the Texas Education Code, Chapter 1001. Thus, the department made no changes to the proposed rules in response to these comments. The next comment. One commenter stated that he wanted to see the department issue a type of certificate for a fee as a prerequisite to conducting driver's tests to prevent examiners from performing unauthorized tests. The department response was that the driving test is administered by DPS, and as such, the department made no changes to the proposed rules in response to this comment. The next comment, one commenter suggested the fee for the duplicate uniform certificate course completion of a driving safety course or specialized driving safety course under 84.63A16 be amended to not exceed $15. The commenter notes the fee has not been addressed in several years, and the expense for issuing such certificates has increased since the rule was previously adopted. The proposed rule amendment places the limit for a duplicate uniform certificate of course completion at $10. The department's response was the current rule proposal allows for more flexibility in the fee, and as such, the department made no changes to the proposed rule in response to the comment. The next comment, one commenter noted that the reduction in the driver education course fees is not enough. The commenter suggests the fee should be reduced from the proposed $200 found in 84.300 to $25 per instructional hour. The commenter notes that the current course content is too detailed, and by reducing unwarranted course content requirements, the department's approval process becomes simplified, and thus a reduced fee is justified. The department responds as saying Texas Occupation Code 51.202 authorizes the commission to set fees in amounts that are reasonable and necessary to cover the costs of administering the programs or the activities for licensing issued by the department, examinations, or any other program or activity administered for which a fee is authorized. Fees are authorized under the DES program pursuant to the Texas Education Code 1001.151, which allows the commission to set fees by rule in an amount sufficient to cover administrative costs. The department has determined that the fee amount per instructional hour for driver education course fees covers its administrative costs. Upon review and consideration of the comments, the department did not make any changes to the proposed rule at that time. Another commenter noted that they requested that the underlying data that the department used to conduct its study in the field, fiscal impact study, that the proposed reduction in DES program fees would have on the industry. Let me read that again. One commenter requested the reduction of the underlying data the department used to conduct its study on the fiscal impact that the proposed reduction in DES program fees would have on the industry. The department response was that the commenter has been advised to file a Public Information Act request under Chapter 552 Texas Government Code to obtain such information. As such, the department did not make any changes to the proposed rules in response to this comment. And the last comment, one commenter expressed concern about the alleged unsafe use and storage of docked and dockless vehicles, such as Segways, scooters, and bicycles. The commenter noted that the irresponsible use of these vehicles is a potential danger to persons with disabilities who share the streets and sidewalks. The commenter noted unsafe use of such vehicles by riders is a growing problem and suggests development of an educational safety program for motorists employing such devices when either moving from another state or renewing a driver's license. The commenter inserted that such program designed to teach proper usage and storage of such vehicles will reduce possible injury to persons with disabilities. In the same comment, the commenter stated that ride-sharing companies and their drivers be required to take refresher courses every 6 months to stay updated on changes in traffic laws and to teach common sense driving. The commenter suggested that ride-sharing companies also be required to have accessible vehicles available for persons with disabilities employing fixed-frame wheelchairs. The department's response was the current rule proposal does not address this issue. However, the department recognizes the issues raised with this comment and notes that the subject at hand related to docked and dockless vehicles may need to be addressed in conjunction with a rulemaking administered by DPS. An alternative measure to this potential problem may be to propose an amendment to municipal ordinances to local elected officials. The issues related to ride sharing raised by the commenter are currently addressed by Chapter 2402 of the Occupations Code, specifically 2402.112, which specifically requires a non-discrimination policy to be developed by transportation network companies such as Lyft or Uber to assist persons with disabilities in obtaining prearranged rides from ride-sharing companies. Section 2402.113 of the Occupation Codes requires a TNC operating in the 4 largest state markets to conduct a 2-year study to determine the availability and accessibility of TNC vehicles to those persons with disabilities employing fixed-frame wheelchairs. Periodic reports under Rule 95.50 are to be submitted by those TNCs to examine the frequency of usage, and the wait time for persons with disabilities for vehicles who employ fixed-frame wheelchairs seeking a prearranged ride. The results of this study are expected to determine if there's an adequate number of ride-sharing resources available for persons with disabilities employing fixed-frame wheelchairs. Thus, the department did not make any changes to the proposed rule in response to this comment. That's the extent of the comments we received. Are there any questions?
Members? Okay, so what else do we got, Mark?
At this point, the staff's recommendation is adopt the amendments to the existing rules at 16 TAC Chapter 84, Subchapter E, 84.61 and 63, Subchapter K, 84.300, 301, and 302 regarding the driver education and safety program. If these rules are adopted by the commission, the effective date would be October 15th.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis. So in regard to Board Member Blake and his questions, what are the options? The same options that the board has available every time. You can take the recommendations and adopt them. You can make amendments to the recommendations. I think his recommendation and suggestion was to pull out the Section K portion of it and allow a work group to talk about it. Come back maybe at the November 7th meeting. That's also an option. I will say this as clearly as I can, that it's going to be a fee reduction. I definitely want to honor the comments. We have somebody that come all the way from McAllen up here. That means a lot. Thank you so much for that trip. We definitely want to honor those comments. But this is something that just yesterday I was testifying at a Senate committee on fee reductions and how agencies go about doing it and how there is a desire and a push on the part of the legislature to ensure that agencies are being responsive in that area. The work group, it'll be interesting to see what could come out of that conversation. The thing I am hearing when you read the comments is that there may be other states that we can look to see the extent of additional work that could come in, maybe the challenges that this particular industry has versus some of our other industries. When we lower fees for electricians and air conditioning contractors, we don't typically have them do a flood of courses and clone courses coming in, so there's a difference in the temperature and how those programs react. So I think it may be worthwhile looking at some of that, but I do want to reiterate that we will be carrying a package to our commission, whether it's a September 14th meeting or at a late November, December meeting, that will include some long overdue fee reductions for this industry. So if the advisory board wants to spend more time wrestling with the issue, we will respect that. We'll respect that, and maybe there's an opportunity for our staff to look at the cost reductions that other states have put in place. I think California, Arizona, and Florida maybe were the three that were mentioned the most in the comments. So that it may be worthwhile to look at those and see what their experience has been. I just offer that you have plenty of options available to you. I think the volume of comments warrant some more conversation, but I want to make it very clear that there will be a fee reduction of some sort. A $15,000, $9,000 fee is not something that's going to stand, I know, with the commission or with me. I think it is entirely too high, but there may be something other than $1,200. So I just wanted to make that clear because I don't want to mislead anyone on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brian. Members? David?
I have a comment on that, Brian. And I think we've all read the public comments. And so I appreciate your openness about your desire to reduce the fees. So speaking purely for myself on this particular topic, for me it's not necessarily the number that that was presented in the documents today, or,
Okay.
excuse me, August 13th. It was more the unknown of, for a driver safety course, it's a 5-hour course, total of 6 hours, including breaks. For an online course, there's validations of course content, the quality of the course content, the time requirements of the course, the personal validation mechanisms of the course, the video validation mechanisms of the course. The list goes on and on. How do you handle an out-of-state student? How does it look on how's the course presented and the validation methods look on a computer versus an iPhone versus a tablet? How does it work on Chrome versus IE? Or
Sure.
I know how much time we spend testing and making sure the course is accurate for our students. And so when I just saw those fees, again, purely from what I'm looking at internally from my company, I don't know how you can test for all those variances and ensure that the general public gets a great course. So that's where I'm coming from, so I
Understand.
appreciate your openness with it, and I'm with Blake. I would like to pull it back and take a better look at it.
This is Carlos Reyna. There's been a lot of comments made about competition coming in. I've never been afraid of competition, and I'll tell the industry, don't be afraid of good competition. I think what we're concerned about is bad competition. In other words, not holding up to the standards that the rest of us have had to meet. And I'm afraid that the fees being dropped the way they are, I'm real concerned about the quality of the programs and the review process. And with that, I know Nina has a lot of experience with this because she was with TA, and they had done a study to find out what it would take, and that's where the fees came from. We didn't say, hey, yes, charge us more money. It came from that, and I'm just concerned that the process now is not what it was. Again, competition, no problem. Unfair competition, yes. Sometimes life is not always fair. Sorry for those that want to start up, but because if life were fair, I'd have hair. Okay. But again, I'm just opposed to just dropping things without more consideration. Sorry about that. Couldn't help it. Without more consideration, looking at other states, because I have facts and figures about other states and what has happened there when they did that you all may not realize what's going to hit you if you do this. And legislature may want certain things, and they have good intentions, but just looking at the deaf language that they did, while it was well-meaning and so forth, there's a lot of issues with it that are going to hurt this industry. So they don't always know the ins and outs of what's going on. So I support everybody else. I think the few that have spoken up that no, I think we need to table this and let's talk about it a little bit more. And Nina, I'd like to ask you, give me some comments on the experience you used to go through in reviewing courses.
Nina Saint, again, I'd worked for TEA in the oversight of driver training for a number of years, and one of my areas of expertise, of course, is curriculum. And so I was blessed with approving numerous courses, and some are sitting on this dais up here, so they've gone through my rigorous process. But in all the factions of the online courses especially, and we would look at traditional courses also for content, time, and so forth, but every faction that's in the rules really can't be looked at together. Because if you're looking at content, it may take you longer than that page timer to fully understand what that person put on there as to meet whatever topic they were looking at. So I would look at it, of course, content, then of course I'm going to look at it at timing. Does it have the adequate timing? Is it pushing breaks? Is it using all the minutes for instruction, or does it have the adequate number of breaks, or a combination of all? And then for the personal validation, passing it and then failing it, both options on all the questions, and then also passing all the content questions, passing all the video questions, and then going back and then failing them. And did it follow up with the process it should have taken to do that? And it's not a short-term process. So in driving safety, you're looking at a 6-hour course, but it still may take you 2 to 3 weeks to make sure all those links work, and then what doesn't work, you're going to have to notify whoever sent that in to you, and then they're going to have to correct it, and you get to do it again to ensure they made the corrections necessary. So I'd be interested in looking if the agency, TDLR, has some cost analysis or some review of how long do they believe it's going to take to do the 6-hour courses and also the 32-hour alternative method of instruction for the driver's ed. Because that one could be a little bit longer, and so forth. So that's what I would be interested in, to seeing if that fits within the fee structure of what you proposed.
And just to kind of put it out there, most of you don't know this, but any agency's budget, about 89% is going to be staff salary. And so the cost estimate, time and motion analysis that you're talking about, we look at just the overall cost for the program. How much does it cost for our investigators? How much does it cost for the attorneys? We are doing that allocation of their efforts based on the number of complaints. We're looking at the allocation based on the number of calls that come into our contact center, the emails. Obviously, the bill is, 100% of his time is dedicated to this, and Shanasty and Ann. So we're looking at those salary costs. What we did is we said, here are the total costs of the program, and here's the total revenue coming in. How much can we shave off? I mean, it's a very simple analysis for us as we do that. So if the board decides to carve out and try to have some more dialogue and conversation, we can do that. I'd look forward to seeing what some of the other states have experienced, what their drops were, what their increases were, and the number of the traffic. I will admit that we are coming up on 3 years in this marriage, and there's still a lot to learn about, who sleeps on the warm side of the bed and all this stuff. I mean, I don't know. We're still learning the driver education group. I do know that the fees are higher than what we're bringing in more revenue than what we have in our cost. So that's something. We are not looking at lowering cost and lowering services. We are not going to cut Brian Bill in half. He's still going to be here. And so that's the work that's getting done, and we're not going to cut Shanasty in half. It's the fees and the excess revenue over the expenses that we've allocated. But I'm willing to have more information and more conversation about that going forward.
Thank you. Members?
Glenn Winningham, question real quick for Brian,
Sure.
actually. On the costs that you're talking about, if, let's say that these fee cuts were made, okay, everybody that's submitted public comment has said that there's going to be an influx of providers coming in, possibly hundreds, okay? I would think that simplistically that your costs are going to go up because you're going to be spending more man hours of actually reviewing all of the programs coming in. And so that, I mean, just looking at it that way, I can't see, I don't see that rationale with.
I understand. We're not going to increase the number of work hours in a day, and the amount of work that Brian's salary covers for a year is what it covers for a year, and however amount of work that gets done in that time period. So there may be some tweaking in the evaluation of the hours and looking at the validation questions, but at the end of the day, those costs are going to remain pretty constant for us because of the number of people we have allocated to that activity. Now, obviously, what that means is that if there's an influx, there's going to be a delay in the number of courses that get approved, and that's something I won't be happy with as well. We'll have to revisit that if the numbers bear out.
Yeah. Kevin Am, so will there be like for those courses that are already approved and that need to be reviewed on a biannual basis or whatever, will they have priority before the new people come in? I mean, how's that going to work?
I don't know, but I know that we will develop systems that allow us to be as innovative and efficient as we can be in that regard. But I'm not going to say one group's going to have priority over the other.
Anyone else? Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Members, we have a vote here, and I guess.
I don't think anybody's made a motion yet.
My apologies, I'm sorry. I was going to say we need to make a motion to adopt the rules. I just want to make sure that we're clear. Anybody have any questions aside from the reduction of the program fees? Is there any questions in regards to the other?
I did want to make a motion to 8463 on the fee for duplicate certificate. I liked what Nina submitted of changing that language to $15, shall not exceed $15.
Perfect, because right now the language, Carlos, is
10.
flexible.
Yes. Well, it says shall not exceed, so your top end limit is 10.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to increase that to 15.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So, okay, great. We'll add the 15 and we'll make a motion. Okay. I'll consider a motion for the adoption of this minus
Blake Garrett minus what, Carlos?
the reduction of program fees.
Ricardo, sorry.
No, that's quite all right. I'm going to consider a motion here to adopt these rules, to add $15 to the duplicate certificate fee, but to delay the implementation of the reduced fees.
Subchapter
We've been
K.
talking about until further notice, because we obviously need to discuss it more. So I'll consider a motion.
May I interrupt you before you do?
Yes.
If we're going to increase a fee that's already been out there for publication, we can't do that without republishing it because it's seen as an additional burden to increase it to 15. So we could also withdraw that one if you wanted and reconsider that, but we can't make a change and then have it adopted.
Mr.
because
Chairman, I'll
the public
withdraw
hasn't seen
my recommendation.
Well, can we, hold on a second, Carlos, can we make a motion then to consider changing it so that it can be reposted? Because that is important. That $10 fee hasn't changed in decades. I don't even know when was the last time. Do we want to consider that? Or do we want to forget it?
No, I'll make that motion that we change that to 15. Go ahead and stick
I'm
with it
sorry,
then.
Della, so in making the motion to change it, that means we withdraw and then we republish. Is that correct?
Well, you could treat it like you're going to do the fees and just not recommend those to be adopted. Is that what you're going to do?
We want to change the fee to $15.
No, I mean the other part of this without the, where you're going to reduce the fees.
That's correct.
Yeah.
We're going to delay the implementation of that, is
Okay.
what we're going to be voting on right now.
So you would treat that the same, which I guess that would be, is that a withdrawal?
So
Or-
I have a question, sorry.
Sure, go
Chairman,
right ahead.
David Bruce. So you're saying if we change, if there's so forgive me, I just want to make sure I'm on the same page.
Yes.
So if we make a motion to change the high end of the duplicate certificate to go from 10 to 15, then we cannot vote to adopt the rest of that particular rule section. We have to pull the entire rule section off.
The way we do it is by section, yes.
Okay. I see your point. So then we might not want to consider it.
Well, I think what, Glenn Winningham, I'm sorry, I think what all of us right now are looking to do is make a motion to approve 84.61 and 84.63, but not make a motion to, hold on a second, so 84.63 includes the duplicate fee.
Right.
So we're making a motion to approve 84.61 and
Yeah, we can't separate the subsections.
Okay, we won't then. We won't. Okay, I'll consider a motion.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I apologize.
No, no, it's quite all right, David. Go for it.
I'm just
We're going to take our
trying
time.
to- So if Mr. Chairman makes the motion to approve the e-certificate section, which has the $10 max limit, he can make the motion, of course. Then we can go revisit Nina's recommendation at a later date. Is that
That's
a
correct, at a later rulemaking.
So that could be, okay.
I would encourage the board to consider approving 61 and 63 as it's presented, knowing that you can still come back and make recommendations on number 16 at a later date, but you're going to lose the 912 and the 848, I'm sorry, House Bill 912 and Senate Bill 848 changes on the mail and the issuance electronic if you forestall this for the $15. You can get that at a later date if that's something that the board wants to do.
Absolutely. We're going to take that.
This is Nina, and I'll pull it back. I don't have an issue, but I do have an issue that was what was recommended to me to do without the knowledge that it couldn't be done after public comment without being published again. So I have learned something, because I asked for that change to be made in the last meeting and was recommended to make public comment on it instead of making the change during the meeting. So, okay.
Okay. So then, I'll consider the motion.
Blake?
Well, let's be real clear about this.
Yes, absolutely. We want to, which ones are the ones that we want to approve minus the program fee so that we get it right? Della, Mark? It is,
I think you want to approve the rules as presented with the
Minus.
exception of subchapter K.
thank you so much, Brian.
that-
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Blake?
I make a motion to do that.
Blake, well said, well said.
Thank you so much.
I
Brian?
second the motion.
I can be explicit. So it's 84.61, 84.63, without the section,
K.
postponing subchapter K regarding fees.
This is Carlos
Is that clear?
Reyna. I second the motion.
Carlos seconds that. Excellent. Members, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Mark and Della. We really appreciate that. Thank you, members. Okay, the next item on the agenda is recommendations for agenda items for the next committee meeting. I think this would be a perfect time to certainly consider a work group, how we're going to discuss this. I make a motion to create a work group to handle this.
Mr. Chairman, you can, but you've already got some work groups, and I
Yeah,
think.
and I think just
we-
a
we
matter
fit
of figuring
perfectly
out.
into it, yeah.
Yeah,
We're
this is
just gonna-
Carlos,
I
just
think
figuring out
just
which
gonna-
one of the work groups has this section, because I know we've been involved in it, and I know this was part of it, but since that discussion wasn't there, we didn't touch on it.
You're in charge. I
We
love
just need
it.
to figure out which one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you've just been nominated.
Here's what the timing, Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis, what the timing will probably look like is, there needs to be some work group wrestling taking place between now and then what will be your November 7th meeting.
Yes, sir.
At that meeting, those fees are gonna come back before you for some
understand.
discussion.
This
And
is-
then we'll probably anticipate our commission having a meeting at the end of November or December to pick up that portion of the rule.
This is Carlos Reyna, and Brian, I'd like to invite you to come to that meeting with us, so you can hear what we have to say, and because I know what you're saying, and I understand, and I know there's going to be some reduction of fees. Just my concern is the quality of the courses. That's my biggest concern. And so if we can come down some, yeah, industry, sure, it'd be great, but I just don't want to just
Understand.
completely slaughter them. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Kevin Knapp, would it be appropriate to have a work task force or whatever for ASL to kind of see where ASL is going to be moving?
That's a great idea. Absolutely. We do need to discuss that
I
further.
don't, we may talk to Mr.
Do we want to add that on
Francis.
the agenda?
Is that all right?
Yeah, that'd be
Brian?
great to put on the next agenda, talk about the configuration, and that'd be perfect.
Of the ASL program, absolutely. So it's done. We'll add that to the,
Mr. Chairman, maybe it would be appropriate to have a group that's talking about the American Sign Language course as well as the Community Safety Act. They're very similar in having videos that are added to existing curriculum, and so having that conversation together may be.
that's great. Thank you, Kevin, so much.
Mark, this is Carlos. One more question. Since we've moved to move these forward to the commission for vote and be approved, when can we expect the electronic certificates to go live? The ability to do that?
Yeah, that might be a question for Ford, if he's still here, on when those will go live. Ford, are you still here?
Mike?
Yeah.
I believe the question was, Carla James, TDLR, I believe the question was, when can we expect these certificates to go live after the commission meeting in September?
Michael Strawn, Education Examination. In regards to the electronic certificate, I'll look at Mr. Whittingham's recommendations, get a couple different 6x9 envelopes together, ensure that that's not an issue. We have our validation system in place. I mean, really, that amount of time could be, 24-hour turnaround. I would need to just speak with my chain of command, make sure everything, we're ready to go. But I would say, while we could implement the change for certificates, there would need to be some leadway in there to reach out to our advocates with TMCEC, OCA, and other municipal and county courts as well, just so they're aware of changes, the certificates, everything else. But the actual physical change on the document and to get it to you all can be done very quickly.
Ford, is there a way to let the public know, or at least course providers know, that, okay, this is the timeline because we didn't get an answer?
Absolutely.
Let me just pipe in, Brian Francis. We don't have a specific timeline, but the thoughts that we were talking about over here is, and Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, we can go back to agenda item H.
Yes, sir.
So talk about these issues. Is using the next 60 days, starting on September, to get the word out, one, to reduce the 70% to a better performance rate. I think Mr. Knapp made a great point that if we get the validation ahead of the quality of the data, then it's going to lose the confidence and credibility. So really spending the next 30 days talking to the providers, get your data in, get it in timely, get it update. They're going to get a couple of rejection letters from FONG. They're going to be nice, little smiley faces on there, but nonetheless, get your data better. And so using that first 30 days to cure the process and have people up to speed on that. And then somewhere at the latter part of that 30 days, maybe into the next 15 or so, which would put us like in the first week of October, having that time to reach out to our partners with the court saying, here are the two things you're going to see. You have your validation system and you have these certificates, and then maybe shooting for a November 1 start date, or maybe even it's a November 7th start date, since that'll be the next meeting. But I think that would be reasonable. Those 60 days, I think, gives us the education to the industry, gets us the connection to the courts, and allows us to really get the system out there, I think, in a workable fashion.
Mr. Chairman, Brian, David Bruce here. So it's been stated via phone calls to my office that other people, there's course providers out there right now that are currently issuing e-certificates. They're emailing the data. So for the next 60 days, would those course providers still be allowed to do that until these rules roll out to the rest of us? Or how does that work?
I don't know how that works, but I know that I'll be as delicate as possible. As we continue to learn this industry, there are folks that get out in front of processes, and we're trying to build a system that's uniform. The November start date will create the mandatory uniformed aspect of this. And I think deviations from that is when we will ensure and enforce compliance with it. The one-offs that are taking place now, we haven't had a formal complaint filed on that. But I think we were behind in having a system to hold people accountable to. And I think this will do that. This will get us in a position to do that.
Mr. Chairman, if appropriate, I'd like to volunteer for the ASL work group.
Absolutely.
I don't know how many people you're looking at, but volunteer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have one volunteer for the group. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mark Landy for the record. Okay, so basically what we'd be talking about, as you're saying, the creation of a new work group regarding the ASL issue?
Correct.
Okay. And as far as the...
Yeah, both, I guess.
Okay, as far as the fee issue, that would be most likely probably more in the purview of the rules work group.
That's coming up, isn't it?
Yeah. So we were talking about having a rules work group scheduled probably sometime in early September. We already have a curriculum one set for September 7th, so I would assume that one would be probably shortly thereafter.
This is Colonel Schreiner. Would the ASL not fall under the curriculum? work group?
I think it might. Actually, that'd be great.
I think that's what we should, that's what we
That's a
should do.
great idea,
Okay,
guys.
let the curriculum committee, work group deal with that, and then the rules committee, which is coming up, we can talk about the fees and that.
Okay, so then, if that's the case, then there would be no need to have a separate work group for ASL. Curriculum would deal with that as an additional.
That is the way I
item.
understand it, Mark, correct.
Okay, just for clarification.
Perfect.
Members, anything else we want to add to the agenda for our next meeting? If not, our next item is discussion of date, time, location of our next committee meeting. We've been hearing November the 7th a lot. I'm assuming it's Wednesday?
That's a Wednesday, and 10 a.m. start time is what
10 a.m.?
the boss to my right told me.
How many members are going to make it? Well, actually, who is not going to be able to attend the November 7th meeting? Members? Who will not be able to be? Fantastic. That is fantastic. So I guess that's official, Delia? Pen us in on that one there. Any other questions, comments, anything at all? I just want to thank the staff, TDLR. You guys are fantastic, all of you all. Everybody that comes up here, the work that you all do. On
Ricardo?
behalf of the members, we want to
Ricardo,
thank
this
you all
is
so much
Carlos.
for your hard work. Yes, sir.
I want to ask, then there is an opportunity to see the video after for anybody, 'cause in case anybody
Right.
forgot that it's going to be available, because I'm going to stick around to see it.
I'll be upon adjournment, and in that moment, I really need to remind and encourage the advisory board members not to discuss that video and not to have discussions about it as you're watching.
Oh,
Okay, excellent. And thank you so much, audience, and the viewers, of course, for attending. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's it. We are done. Adjournment.